Next up, and last but definitely not least, obviously, we have the esteemed Paddy Downey, President and CEO of Orezone Gold, here to share with us his observations from an extensive background, it's a few years, in gold and gold mining's value to the world overall, as well as factors to look out for when investing in gold producers, both positive and negative. We also look forward to Paddy's highlights about Orezone Gold and what investors can expect from the company in the next while. Please welcome Paddy Downey.
Thanks, Rita. The last time I held a microphone like this, I think I was drunk in a karaoke bar, but how do I move this forward? He didn't tell me. Space bar? Okay. Yeah, I'm really not going to spend a lot of time talking about Orezone at large, but I really want to talk about some of the things that I've seen. I want to reflect maybe a little bit on what Randy said at the start about what gold does in the world at large. I mean, it is a store of value. It really is a currency, but we do a lot of other things that I think are really go unnoticed. It will always be at the forefront of development. Where does development come from? It's generally from a gold rush. It doesn't come from somebody wanting to open a Walmart store. It really comes from people going out to the nether regions of countries and developing it. And Canadian companies, and particularly junior Canadian companies, have been a force for good in that regard. There have been developments and things have happened in lots of parts of the world that have been caused by gold mine development positively. And there's a huge value add that seems to get ignored in this sector. We actually do a lot of work with communities and development in healthcare and education that really gets undervalued in the space that we work in. And over my career, and it's been a fairly long, I think I'm at the tail end of my career now, the crucial areas that add value is direct result of gold infrastructure. You know, we put roads where roads haven't been, water. I look at Orezone Gold and what we've done. We're really in an area that has 4 months of rain a year. The rest of the year, there's no water. And people struggle to survive. And we put in things like boreholes 90 meters, 100 meters into the subsurface that didn't exist before, and pump water using solar into vegetable gardens, agriculture, schools, hospitals that did not exist before this. They did not have access to it. They scrambled around looking for water. Renewables, we're putting in, as I said, solar power. We built, I think, 1,300 houses, churches, schools, clinics. We're building another 1,300, and they're all run off solar. And so at night, kids can read. They can actually continue their education at night beyond at 6 o'clock when the sun went down before. That was it. They were finished. But now they can actually go to school, continue to read, continue to study. Clinics can continue to run. At night time, people can be rushed to an emergency that before the chances of living were pretty low. Yeah, they had a vehicle to get there to another clinic 20 kilometers away. And who had a vehicle? Nobody. So governments don't do that. NGOs don't do that. We as mining companies do that. And we should actually reflect on that over the years of what we've done in places like this. Healthcare, as I said, education. You know, we put in night schools, as I said. We built we've actually built houses for the teachers so they don't have to come in and out because they've got no means of transport, or it's dangerous at night to drive. They actually live in the community now as school teachers and educate the kids. Pensions. We've got 1,000 people working for the mining contractor that now have pensions that had nothing beforehand. So they've got something to fall back on when the mining ends. Healthcare benefits. They can go to the clinic and not worry how they're paying for it. We do it. Better sustainable living conditions. I mean, everybody thought when, and I've seen this all over the world, when we were building communities, will they want to actually move to these places? When we built the houses, or actually a lot of the local contractors built them, these guys were living in pretty poor conditions. We didn't actually have to move them. They started moving them themselves. So they actually moved the whole community into the new villages before we told them they were ready. They were actually there before we'd actually finished painting the goddamn things. And we create long-term growth and wealth, and it's really important to understand that. If you do not have that support, it's going to be very difficult to build and operate a mine. It really is. And I've been in that situation. It is very, very difficult. Just a few photographs of some of the things we've done. One of the ones I'm most proud of is we're sub-Sahara, and really, when people live there, they cut down trees because they need it for, cooking, they need it for heat, etc. And so they denude it. The soil is only a few inches thick, so it literally blows away. And this was an idea that came to us everybody has to have skin in the game with us. The locals had to gather all the stones. We make these into these half-moon structures. It really comes from an idea of the Canary Islands, where a lot of the soil blows away, but they actually grow vineyards in these little sort of half-moon structures. We built all of these, and the next, the photograph above it is all the corn that we've grown on this. Before this was completely barren. Nothing grew on it. So we've created land where no land existed. Paddy fields, because we're able to paddy fields, I guess, because we're able to put down the boreholes and sink them and run them off of solar, we're flooding these little flat areas and growing rice that actually never had rice before. Now they have these renewable crops that they didn't exist before. Women's centres, women are, would you believe, true leaders in these communities. If you don't have the women on your side, my God, you're going to have trouble. But they're also treated a little differently. So we've been building, community centres for them where they can discuss new and interesting things in the community, come up with ideas for us. One was weaving. We're running poultry farms. We will now build an abattoir right beside this, and they will supply our camp. And so all the chicken for the camp will come from these poultry farms, and they will all be to World Health conditions in terms of the actual abattoir, and that'll all be local people as well. So gold is a force of good. It really and truly is. This is not done by who the heck makes computers? I don't know, Dell or any of these people. They don't come here. This is all done by us. We are at the forefront of development, and we should always remember that. We always leave a good legacy. This got out a little bit. We hosted a delegation of the United Nations ambassadors about 6 weeks ago, I believe. We had the ambassadors from Canada, the US, Sweden, Greece, Turkey, and the Netherlands. And they came to our side. Everybody talks about Burkina being dangerous. They didn't come by helicopter or tank. They drove. It's not that dangerous. I've lived and was raised in a more dangerous place, I can tell you. Well, if you're British, it was dangerous. But that's nothing wrong with that. Keeps them on their toes. But they came out to see the community work we were doing, and this has got out beyond this. We actually just got contacted today by the BBC World Service Africa, and the guy's based out of Nigeria, and he'd heard about the work we were doing with the communities at the mine, and he wants to do an interview with our general manager to put on the BBC. So think about that, and when this is the sort of thing that mining should promote as we go forward. It's a great business to be in. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. A few people I've met, maybe. But, I think that it's really important to get that out. And last, what's the precursors to success? Well, that's a hard thing to say, but I'll give you a few. For me, team. I think everybody here talked about the team you have around you. It's extremely important. Make sure they have opinions and strong opinions and not afraid to give them. They should be able to be part of the team and be able to, both give and take ideas. So it's important, that you have a strong team around you. Understand the geology. I am not a geologist. I do know the capital of Spain, but that's about the height of it. But don't fall in love with it. Some guys do, but understand the geology. If you don't understand it, you can't mine it. I can tell you. For me, I'm a dot joiner. I look at the geology. I look at the drill holes. I look at the, as Chris says, the 1 meter intercepts for me are absolutely vital. And I look at the block model and I go, bullshit, or yeah, I think I can mine that. Because for me, it's about mining it. The geology can look like what it looks like, but I've got to figure it out. How the heck does it come out of the ground? CapEx, I've got a lot of basic rules I look at. One of the key ones is when I look at CapEx is I look at the tons per annum that they're going to process. I divide it by that. And if it doesn't make sense, I'm going, And when you look at something, just look at the CapEx they publish, look at the tons per annum they're saying, and divide by that, and it should fit within a range. In West Africa, it's 85 to 100. In Canada, it's 130 to 180. And if it doesn't fall within those brackets, you better ask yourself a question. Why not? So if it's 50% of something similar, ask the question. Can you control the costs? I mean, what's out of your control and what's within your control? That makes it. Logistics are extremely important. So can really and truly drive a cost. If you don't have power, you're going to have to bring it in. Then you're going to have to bring in whatever that power needs to drive it, such as diesel or HFO or whatever the case may be. And that's a big cost of everything in terms of operating mines, really and truly is. What will your cost of capital be? I mean, if you go to Randy, it's about 2%. Other than that, it's maybe 4%. Okay, I got a 2.5% discount on that. I've still got the coupon. And as I said, location, that's, here I am in Burkina, and it's got its own problems, but the government have been nothing but helpful to us, I can tell you that. It's got a very, very good mining code. Logistics, transportation, logistics, how do I get something to the site? How much working capital do I have to have on that site? I mean, I know mines that have $70, $80 million of working capital tied up because that's when they get deliveries. For us, we tie up about $4 million because the logistics are good. Even though we're in a landlocked country, that's extremely important, is how do I get things to site? People, materials, supplies. Labor, even building things. I look at, now in Canada, if you're looking at a remote site, it's probably 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out. That's very expensive. We run about 6 to 7 weeks in, 3 weeks out. And people don't complain. They're happy to have a job. So the on costs are extremely important. Topography for me, how do I build it? How much earth do I have to move? One key thing I see in Canadian projects is not enough geotech, guys. You go to build it, and you start digging a hole, and it's a bigger hole than you think. And then you have to backfill it. And now the winter comes, and now you're trying to put siding on a building, and it's November, and the wind's blowing. That's difficult. So think about all those things. So when you see a press release saying, oh, we're just about to start putting the steel up, and you go, Jesus Christ, it's October. When are you going to be putting everything else up? Things start running awry then. Think about those things. Location is extremely important. And as I said, topography, it can work in your favor or it can work against you. And it's something that I look at when I walk in a site. We're looking at anything, I can tell you, like Kevin McKenzie's just joined us here. When we're looking at things, we don't look at data. We do a site visit, and quickly from a site visit, we'll go, yeah, we should look at it, or no, not happening. So site visit tells you a lot about the people, the communities, the location, etc. Lack of good quality data. I've seen block models built on holes that were 100 meters apart. And you go, how did that happen? Well, it's just anybody can do it. But, and again, I think, Chris, you putting every meter out there, really important. You look at something and you go, I've got 50 meters of 2 grams, including 1 meter of 100. Uh, Geotechnical, as I said, extremely important. Not enough geotech work. Even us, we're building a mill beside another mill. I insisted that we had geotech drilling done under every major structure. It was exactly the same data as the previous stuff, but that doesn't matter. That $10,000 can save you $10 million. And time. Metallurgy, like somebody mentioned, metallurgy, very important. I don't know, but I haven't watched what your data is, but I know when I was building a heap leach in Argentina, I was putting all of my column work and my bottle roll work into the market, and people didn't understand why. What is that? I said, well, there could be people looking at me, and it turned out I was bought out, but they were looking at that. The metallurgy was telling them this actually will heap leach, and it will heap leach without 20 kgs of cement or whatever the case may be. So put out the metallurgical data. It doesn't mean it's a fatal flaw. Sometimes metallurgy is tough. It's, can I resolve it? Can I fix it? And how much is it going to cost to do it? I always have ratio factors. I look at some studies like 43-1, and the EPCM is 6 million and the CapEx is 400. Bullshit. That's not true. Can't be done. So I look at ratios of engineering, procurement, construction management versus the total CapEx. I at equipment costs versus CapEx. The ratio is there. How do they fit in? Are they real? I've been using rules of thumb now for 40-something years, and they're all good. They're not wrong. Tons per vertical meter, ounces per vertical meter. You look at them, somebody was mentioning some projects that failed. You could tell right away, you can't mine that amount of tons out of that project. It won't work. You look at the grades, you can't mine that amount of ounces. You've either got to develop it all the way down and start mining it from the bottom up, or you're going to be spending huge amounts of sustaining capex just to keep up with the development. There are rules of thumb, guys, and they still exist, and they're good. Don't forget them. I always walk around, make sure I go out into the communities. If they don't look at you, if they ignore you, don't wave at you, don't talk to you, you got a problem. You talk about having an agreement with the indigenous, etc., the First Nations, hugely important, and establish it early on. Don't start drilling holes and ignoring guys around you. They know you're there. They're not stupid. Get to know them. Get to know the key people. Make sure you're well liked. Make sure all of your team members understand that. It's really, really important. Having a good relations with the locals from the start. Don't start engaging when you think you've got a deposit. Engage early. And you know what? They're generally pretty good people to deal with. I always ask myself, would I be happy working here? If I won't work there, somebody said if you can't get people, I don't know who it was, if they've got 9 executives and they all live in wherever and nobody lives near the project. Was that you, Chris? Yeah, I say the same. Would I be happy here? Well, if I'm not, why would I ask somebody else to work there? I'm not going there. You go there. This place is awful. No, if you don't want to work there, don't ask anybody else to do it. You're the CEO. You make the decision. And that's about it from me. I'm not really going to promote Orezone except some of the stuff we do. We are in production. We did build it on time, under budget during COVID, which was quite an accomplishment. We are building an expansion, so that should be lots of excitement there. And we had a rapid ramp up, very simple ore body. I love simple ore bodies because you can get them going quickly. You don't have to start figuring things out when shit starts happening. Limited capex for exceptional upside and phenomenal ongoing exploration. So our average reserve pit depth is 38 meters. That's sort of nuts, but that sort of shows the unexplored part of the ore body. And it's really because previous management were focusing on an oxide. They were focusing on a heap leach, which actually would not have worked. It did require 20 kgs of cement, and it could only build up to 2 levels. So you would add a heap leach from Burkina to Mali to end up heap leaching it. Strong focused team. I mean, we have only 3 expats on the project. Everybody lives in the area. There's 3 expats. One of them is the security manager. So really 2 key expats, and they are key guys. But they're a strong focused team. They all live and the money that they earn stays in country. Hugely important. Everybody's seeing the benefit of it, and that's a critical part of having guys who will stay focused and stay with you. They're not looking for the next job or the next position somewhere else. For us, the key drivers going forward is our debt package, which you should announce in maybe a month or so. We're going to link up to the grid power. We are working on diesel right now at 62 cents a kilowatt hour. Wasn't exactly how we wanted to start up. We were supposed to start up with LNG, but our LNG went to the moon and our power supplier went to the moon with it. And but we will be linked up to the grid. Phase 2 construction, we expect to order the mills this week, I think, and that'll get going on the next stage of construction. And then, as I say, continue to drill and add to the ounces. So that's what's going to be the value drivers for Orezone. I didn't even know I had this slide, key drivers here. But anyway, thanks, Vanessa. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much.